If you're just joining now, I'd love to invite you to introduce yourself in the chat with your name, pronouns, organization, and role. We'd also love to hear a sentence or two about your best experience with technical or customer support, as that is going to be the theme of today's call. Joining us for today's call, we have 4 additional members of the Digital Benefits Network team. Ariel Kennan is our Senior Director of the Digital Benefits Network. Elizabeth Bynum-Sorrell is the Senior Manager for Research and Engagement. Lisa Fox is the network's Program and Data Manager, and Olivia Zhou is one of our student analysts this school year. They will be managing our chat, collecting your questions, and providing tech assistance. So if you run into any issues while we're on the call, please use the chat feature to bring up your concern, and one of our team members will be ready to provide you with some support. All right, so this community of practice, if you've been here before, this will be familiar to you. If not, thank you for joining us. This community of practice exists to promote the delivery of public benefits to all eligible individuals, including vulnerable populations, by informing how digital identity approaches should be used in public benefits delivery. We do this by facilitating a mature and strong community, amplifying the needs and expertise of people with lived experience, fostering shared subject matter understanding, and guiding effective implementation. When y'all joined this community of practice, each of you agreed to abide by our group norms, which affirm that members will treat each other with respect, explore misunderstandings, and give each other an opportunity to grow. So we want to be able to have these spaces be a place where we can have conversations and be able to learn from each other. With that said, we also want to make sure that people have a safe space in this community. And so we will not tolerate any forms of harassment. If you have any questions about our group norms or code of conduct, we ask that you take a moment to review our expanded norms, which will be put into the chat, and our code of conduct document. And if you do have any questions, feel free to reach out to our team via email. All right. So now we're going to go ahead and get started. If you haven't yet, please introduce yourself in the chat. Thank you to everyone. Mark, David, it's nice to see you. Would love to just get to know who's in the room and what experience folks have had with user or technical support. On today's agenda, we're going to start the call with a quick introduction to today's theme, then hear from Connie LaSalle of the National Institute of Standards and Technology to share an update on the Balance ID project, which is a collaboration between NIST, the Center for Democracy and Technology, and the DBN. Then we'll spotlight community of practice member Erica Seery from MyMassGov to learn more about their approach to digital identity and client support models. Following the spotlight, we'll spend some time in discussion groups to identify common client challenges in the account creation process and consider best practices for technical support. We'll wrap up by sharing our insights with community and an opportunity for community announcements. We've baked in time into the agenda for y'all to ask questions throughout the presentations, but if anything comes up during the call, please feel free to use the chat feature or to use the raise hand feature. So we're going to be theming our quarterly calls, and the theme for this call is exploring client support models in digital identity. So when we think about technical or account support, I want us to think about it as a lifeline that connects users to useful outcomes, especially when they face barriers that limit their ability to complete a process on their own. So just like you would guide someone who might be blindfolded through a task rather than leaving them to struggle, or you might provide interpretation to someone who's facing a language barrier, it's important to meet users where they are and help them navigate the complexities of account creation and identity verification. So during this call, we're going to explore some ways that we can support clients through account creation, management, and identity verification. So to get us started, we want to level set on digital identity. So we've invited Connie LaSalle, a senior advisor at NIST, to share a new publication with us. Connie covers a broad portfolio of critical and emerging technology issues and is co-lead of the Balance ID project, whose goal is to provide tailored digital identity risk management guidance for public benefits practitioners and public sector decision makers. Prior to joining NIST, Connie led the platform program and federal customer success teams at DC-based startup Virtue. In the years leading up to this role, Connie served as the lead policy advisor for the Chief Information Officer of the U.S. Department of Justice and led several cybersecurity and IT modernization initiatives within the White House Office of Management and Budget. Beyond her government service, Connie brings several years of industry experience with her to NIST and holds a graduate degree in public policy. Take it away, Connie.
Thanks, Quinny. And for those who I haven't had the pleasure of meeting yet, it's nice to meet you. I'm grateful that you keep showing up in communities like these because we need as many perspective solving problems like those that emerge at the intersection of technology and society beyond those of us in government doing our very best to partner. So I wanted to give a little bit of an overview on the project first, and then we'll dive into the publication itself, the first deliverable. So with any new or newer technology or change in doing business, just like adoption of digital identity, there are certain questions that will come up around privacy and data security, due process, who gets to make decisions, and accessibility of systems designed to support public benefits delivery in this case. So through this particular project, NIST is partnering with DBN and the Center.
Connie broke up for me. Is she broken up for other people?
Yeah, I can't hear her.
Yeah, not hearing anything.
Okay, Connie, I think we're getting you back.
Okay, my internet connection goes back and forth. So you know what I'm going to try to do is cut my video and see if that helps us at all.
Go ahead.
Okay, I'll test it out. Can you hear me clearly?
Yes.
All right, we're winging it. We're tap dancing all day today. Okay, so where did I cut off before, or how far did I get before you couldn't hear me anymore, Quinny?
It was only about like 5 seconds.
Okay. So I'll just start again about the project itself. Our goal is to deliver voluntary resources that can support and empower practitioners and public sector leaders in evaluating the necessity and level of authentication and identity proofing practices that might be appropriate in specific benefits delivery scenarios. So there are 3 key buckets to keep in mind before we zoom into one of them. The 3 buckets are reach, research, and resources, if that's a helpful framing. So what do I mean by that? Reach. One of the core challenges right now is that there's fragmented awareness of what digital identity is, what the technologies are, what the processes are, and there's fragmented understanding and language used to describe some of these concepts. So reaching people, making them aware of what we're even talking about to begin with seems critical to me in order to solve some of these problems with all people who have equities at the table. Research is exactly what it sounds like. Do we have shared situational awareness that informs implementation, decision-making, and development of standards and guidelines on the part of NIST? And then finally, resources. We specifically want to deliver a set of voluntary written products that can support decision-making when it comes to the use of, if it's necessary, digital identity in a particular public benefits delivery scenario. So the first of these deliverables that we're really excited to talk to you guys about, you can see screen shared right now, is a digital identity 101 document. And it does exactly what you think it does. It offers an overview of key terminology, concepts, and processes associated with the digital identity technology domain. One of our goals is to reflect input from a variety of voices that includes federal partners, state benefit program administrators, state IT and cybersecurity leaders, privacy experts, digital identity experts, technologists, advocates, and really anybody else with experience navigating the public benefit or digital identity tech landscape, just like some of those of you on this call. So if you'd like to learn a little bit more and engage in the project, there's a way for you to join us. We have a working group that meets monthly. The next meeting is next week, so there's still time if you haven't engaged that way. And I would say reach out to us. There's a link to view the publication itself if you're curious, but if you want to get even more engaged in the development or providing input on publications like this, reach out to the DBN crew and let us know. This is, like I said, just the first of many. Just to preview some of the other deliverables, we're getting really in the weeds on the risk assessment practice. So if you want to know how this works, the kinds of inputs that are used, we're wrapping up an initial round of work on the digital identity risk management process. How do you factor in all these things and get to a balanced ID approach, hence the name. And I think we'll be doing more in the weeds architecture design work in the future, just to give you a sense of what the deliverables look like. So I'll pause there. That's the gist of it. I hope you take a look at the document, and I hope even more that you'll join the working group. And I'll turn to the DBN crew to see if you want to add anything on top of that.
Yeah, Connie, thank you so much for sharing information about that. So the Balance ID project is a collaboration with NIST in addition to the Center for Democracy and Technology and the Digital Benefits Network. We're really excited about this 101. We have tried to make it as easy to understand for folks who are coming at digital identity from whatever sector that they are on. We have some really nice visuals to help people understand the process. I keep moving. Here we go. And so, yeah, I encourage y'all to check it out. The link is in the chat. So next up, we have we're going to spend some time highlighting one of our community of practice members, Erica Seery. Erica is the product manager leading the development and implementation of MyMassGov, the flagship product of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts Digital Roadmap. MyMassGov enables constituents to access state programs and store personal information through a single secure account. It currently manages more than 5 million logins per month. Today, Erica will be sharing information about MyMassGov's approach to digital identity and client support models. Members will have the opportunity to ask questions following her presentation, so please type them into the chat as they come up. So I'm going to stop sharing so that Erica can go ahead and present.
All right, let me take over. Are you able to see my screen? No, maybe?
Yes.
Okay, great. All right, hi folks, Erica Seery, Massachusetts here. So we're going to talk a little bit about how we've been thinking about support model, but to give you the context of what that support model is supporting, I wanted to explain a little bit more about what MyMassGov is. So at its core, it is a constituent single sign-on. So we have that rolled out to over 80 different use cases in the state. And it's essentially required for our agency partners at this point. We have some major applications. Our unemployment system is going live on it. Our SNAP program is already on. We're in conversations with our health insurance, our state health insurance, and our registry of motor vehicles for this upcoming year. I'll skip over CRM. That's what we'll be, and this support model, that's what we'll be talking about. The other two core pieces to MyMassGov right today is identity verification and universal profile. So our goal here is that this is a single account that constituents can use to speed up their interactions with the state, not only with login, but core information about themselves that they'd have to be saying, proving who they are over and over again, that we can do that once in a central place. We're in a pilot phase with identity verification. It is soft launch in our central portal and piloting with our Department of Family and Medical Leave this month. And universal profile kind of is an extension of that. How is the information we can store centrally used in applications and kind of rolled out further across the board. So to talk a little bit about how we've been thinking about supporting this, there were two kind of main questions that we were kind of grappling with. The first is, how do we help agencies successfully support constituents? We are a central IT office. We don't offer benefits. We don't manage any of the programs that constituents are trying to access. And we know that no matter what, folks are going to think about the agency or the service that they're interacting with. I need food assistance, so I need help with that. I'm going to call the Department of Transitional Assistance. I'm going to call the phone number on my SNAP website. No matter what agency, folks are going to look for the specific thing that they're needing. So we need agencies to be successful when someone does call them. And then the second piece of that is, what do we need to offer from the center, and how do we implement that? And so we ended up, there are several different pieces that we have been focusing on. The first of these, of course, is actual self-help. And so we've been very focused on our content on mass.gov. How do we do lots of usability testing on our actual login flows so that those are easy and folks can find, Google the answer if they want to just get the information themselves. The next layer, they are thinking about helping agencies. Some of it is some level of governance and guidelines, how they're implementing our service on their application. We need to help them be successful and actually provide, here's the research that we've done, here's what we've seen with other implementations, here's how you can make it easy for constituents so that they don't call you. And when they do call, here's some templates for communications, or how to answer, how to train agents on those questions. We can learn from that as a central part of the government from other people's implementations as we've gotten kind of further along here, and share that, speed up that process for our agency partners. And then ultimately the question of, what should we offer from the center? So the piece that we first started with was a CRM. So agencies who had their own login, if someone called and said, I can't log in, they previously had full control over, okay, my agent can see all of the data, can see that an email is getting bounced, or whatever that answer is. We wanted to make sure by implementing our service, we don't become like a opaque wall of they don't know what's happening in our service. So starting with the CRM, we've built out a Salesforce system for our agents to be able to actually see our MyMassGov users, see some limited information about them. That has been a complex data segregation, which agencies should see which users, how do we make sure it's both useful and not essentially one data store of all of that agents have of all constituents in the Commonwealth. But we've been building that out, and we actually have moved towards implementing a central contact center that will be run by our team, in addition to how agencies are going to support their constituents. So how this has looked, we started with the process kind of end of last fiscal year in the spring into the summer and fall, was two things. We need to procure someone, we need to bring in some help to think about, should we have a contact center? What would that look like? Our team is product experts and development, processes, and doesn't know a lot about contact centers. A big key to that is we really wanted a partner who was going to not assume that we needed a contact center, because that was still a question mark. We didn't want someone to, it was careful vetting on who was going to come in and not say, great, I can help you set up a contact center, but I can help you identify the needs and decide if a central contact center is the right partner. And then we also were starting the build of our CRM. We did an alpha launch of our CRM back in November, so we have a couple of agencies in there now using it kind of as they get calls and questions from agents. They're using our CRM. We're learning about the types of questions that they get and if we're able to help them answer those questions. And then in the meantime, we've been building up to this idea of a central contact center. So ultimately what came out of we hired a local consulting partner to help us come up with a strategy for central contact center. And it did come around to a couple of things. There was some agencies at their launch are really overwhelmed. It's a big deal with that initial launch of a new login system. So how can we take some of the load off by providing a central contact center? And this whole idea is that we want to de-silo the experience with the state. And so by providing some central help with MyMassGov, instead of relying on each agency's interpretation of how to support MyMassGov, we actually can provide a more consistent experience for users. And so we are pursuing doing that central contact center. So our first step with that, we actually have a new unemployment system going live in later this spring. And our first approach to that is we're hiring some agents that are going to be plugged into their launch to help them. Again, that gives us a chance to, in a larger context and not on our own, get an understanding of the questions that folks are going to ask, get training and get set up with agents. A lot of hiring happening now and figuring that out. And come June, we're actually going to pilot kind of a few agents that are on their own, that are essential support, looking towards potentially closer to the fall, being in a situation where we have like our own phone number or our own line for folks who are looking for help just with MyMassGov. A few of the hard things about this is authenticating callers. So what we've learned is that most of our agencies, from what I can tell, are using knowledge-based verification. So they're asking a series of questions. What's your SSN? What's your date of birth? What's your claim number, to verify that someone is who they say they are over the phone. Since multiple agencies are doing this for us, the concern became, what if one agency authenticates a user and resets their MFA and they have a lower standard than I have? We haven't had a blanket policy for that. And from our side, we just have accounts. So unless someone has done identity verification or shared more information, I don't have a claim number to ask them about. I don't have date of birth. So unless they've done something more, I have very limited information to use for a central contact center to actually authenticate that person and provide them support that involves their data or involves resetting their account. So where we are there is I'm actively working with a group of chief information security officers that are representing various secretariats across the state and trying to propose essentially setting a policy that sets a baseline. So if agencies want access to our MyMassGov data, to the CRM essentially, or to request an account reset for a user, they have to meet a standard. And my goal here is that we try to improve security without creating barriers in the meantime. And so the key to that is actually getting folks to agree on a roadmap that gets us towards meeting NIST standards for authenticating callers, but starts with something that we can feasibly do without creating barriers today. So that is where we are. I'm meeting with them tomorrow, so we'll see how that continues. But would want to open it up for questions. Would love to hear if folks have dealt with, especially authenticating callers is very top of mind for me, but anything else on here, love comments or questions from folks.
Yeah, Eric, I'm so impressed that there's a lot of coordination that goes into this, and it's very apparent that y'all have been very thoughtful. Would love to know, maybe ask one or two folks if any questions are coming up for them. or if they have any questions about the process or just like any feedback on how things are going in their state that they might want to ask Erica questions on. Lauren asks, how did you decide to use a CRM as your backing system?
So the CRM is not our primary data store for our profile. We have like our own database where we're storing things, and the CRM is just kind of another tool for agents to be able to view it. So we knew we wanted more secure control. We didn't want to build the whole thing on Salesforce, but we did want a ready-built tool with a lot of vendors that can support it. And so that kind of led us to like a Salesforce solution for the agent piece.
One question, Erica, was curious about kind of like the resources or templates you mentioned for training agents. Could you share a little bit more about what that looks like?
Yeah, so the vendor that we brought on that is helped us kind of strategize and is helping us set up the contact center, their expertise is in training, and so they're actually subcontract out the actual like contact center management kind of process. They are trainers, and so they're creating this documentation, you know, on the spot now for like these agents that we're gonna have. That is, okay, what are all the explainers for what you can use the CRM for, how you answer these types of questions. And those are just a great opportunity that we should not keep to ourselves, but otherwise agencies have all been kind of on their own to do that until now. We have an opportunity to say, here's a template, certainly change it for your training model and however you train your agents. But we can give you a pretty solid starting point for here's the types of questions we hear, here's exactly how to answer, here's exactly step-by-step how to use the CRM to answer that question.
Okay, for the sake of time, I think I'm gonna give room for one more question, and then Erica, if you'd be able to answer the rest of the questions in the chat, that would be really helpful. Yeah, I see somebody go off mute. No? Okay.
Oh, yeah, but I didn't know if you were taking a question from chat or from, I mean, I had questions about KBA that you mentioned, Erica, and then also the white paper that Connie pushed, that Connie put the link to because it's in there. My understanding was NIST has completely deprecated KBA and it shouldn't be used anymore because the fraudsters print out lists of the answers to questions that I can't remember.
Yep.
And lots of people can't remember. How is that being addressed? Because to me, that's the whole. And also, Erica, thank you. I mean, we've chatted on the side. I use MyMassGov. I'm pleased. I'm really glad to have something like that in place. So I don't mean at all to be attacking, but I'm interested in the KBA.
Yeah, that's my primary leverage point for saying I'm going to implement a new policy that's better than everyone's, is because that you know, that's the only tool that agencies have had available to do better verifications over the phone, and it is a complicated space. And so even if I can't immediately get to an AAL2 that I would be ideal for over the phone, anything that I can do to like verify and make someone do an OTP with an email first before I answer something is an improvement over those knowledge-based verifications that agencies are doing today. And so it's a great opportunity. It is another instance where it feels like this is an opportunity to not just improve the constituent experience, but this program can improve some security standards across the Commonwealth. Yeah.
Great.
Thank you so much. We have a lot of other questions in the chat, so I'm going to encourage folks to keep using that as a space. And if you want to keep up with Erica, you can also email her at erica.seery@mass.gov, or you can connect with her using the DBN Slack. But yeah, thank you, Erica, so much just for your presentation and the thoughtful consideration that you're putting into best supporting users through what is often a very complicated process, and also reducing some of that technical or administrative burden on like the folks that are working on the benefits side. So really just appreciate how thoughtful y'all are being there. All right, so next up, we are going to move to some discussion groups because this topic of client, so I want to give us about 5 minutes just kind of to like lean into maybe some takeaways that we got from our discussion groups. I'd love to learn, like, was there any idea or model that you heard today that you're interested in implementing or learning more about, like what somebody else is doing, or even just like when we were thinking about like implementation barriers, like, are you interested in like tapping more into that area? So whether it's user support or an implementation barrier, is there something that you heard today that you're interested in learning more or implementing? And feel free to just go ahead and unmute yourself. Okay, if I don't get a volunteer, I'm going to pick on somebody.
Well, Paul and I talked about a wide range of things, but we did right towards the end talk about one of the potential replacements for in an identity verification flow that's coming up. And I know I work with a bunch of digital credentials like mobile driver's licenses, and if there are those who are interested to use that in a flow to replace physical document capture when doing identity verification, I'd be interested to talk to them. And we also talked about the advantages and a few disadvantages of the bring your own login models, where you use an existing account, typically OpenID, Apple, Google, something, right, to for user authentication. And the advantages being that users can, it's one less thing to remember, one less account to remember. Disadvantages being you have to remember, oh yeah, that's right, I used Apple for this one. But that wrappering, such as login.gov, I know there's some login.gov folks on, is actually pretty nice.
Thanks,
Something
David.
to consider for password reset request reduction.
That's a really good one. I think that's something that comes up a lot. It's just like passwords are hard. And I think when I popped into y'all's group, just like recalling there are people that just don't have the same devices for whatever reason. So trying to make that more accessible. Anything else that's coming up for folks or that came up? Or does anybody feel inclined to like, okay, this presentation, this conversation, like gave me something to think about. I learned something new, or I learned something I hadn't considered. Is anybody leaving here with like, I'd love to hear like if somebody's leaving here with a desire to learn more, or to like take another step towards addressing this area.
I'll chime in to say thank you, Jeannie. That was a great conversation. Yes, I feel like I learned so much from every one of these times that we gather. We spent a lot of time talking about hierarchical relationships across user accounts on the staff side and on enrollment partner side, and what that who creates those hierarchies, the single sign-on partner or the benefits administering partner. But thanks to the group, these are always wonderful conversations.
Yeah, thank y'all. So we are, basically almost at time. I do want to iterate some announcements that we have for y'all. So I'm going to go back to sharing my screen. And let's do these next. So if you're not already on Slack, please join our community. I think in relation to this conversation, I'd love to hear more, like maybe Erica, like I'd love to know if you'd be able to share a few examples of like ways that support, like you're hoping to help people with the support system. Like what are specific challenges that are coming up that you're like, that you've named, like these are the common things that we're seeing, and that's why like we're really trying to bolster this user support model. I think just giving a little bit more context to folks that aren't as like client facing might be helpful for them to like understand the use case for the importance of this user support model. And then another thing that I want to do is invite folks to a government-only briefing. So if you're part of federal or state, local, tribal, territorial government, we invite you to our briefing on AI-powered rules as code. So this meeting really is meant to help explore or to uncover some of the research that the DVN has done as they've explored if AI can be used to expedite the translation of SNAP and Medicaid processes into software code for implementation. So this is happening next Wednesday from 2:30 to 3:30 p.m. And we're putting that registration link in the chat. And lastly, we encourage you to check out our past recordings from our community of practice presentations. So as y'all close out, there will be a link to a survey that lets us know just how this meeting was, if there's anything that we can do to change this meeting for you in the future. Yeah, if it would be beneficial to like change anything about them. But overall, I really just want to thank you all for your time today. Thank you for participating in this conversation with us. We're excited to share a little bit more information at our next call on some more of our like research with beneficiaries. I talked to one group a little bit about how Elizabeth and I were able to travel and do interviews with people that like have gone through the application process online and analog and just hearing how the process has been for them and some of the challenges that they've run into. And in our report, we're also going to be learning some ways that we like some recommendations that we can make for folks. So we're excited to share a little bit more about that at our next meeting. And we'll also be hearing also just like how different states are also capturing user feedback. So it'll be a really interesting conversation and I'm excited for it. But I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing. I'm going to stay on the call in case anybody has any additional questions or comments they want to discuss. But if you got what you needed, thank you so much, and I hope you have a great day.